everyone, and welcome back to For the Minions, the weekly show where we talk about various third-person MOBAs, mainly Paragon-related, but we do have Ethereal in there. This week, we've got some huge updates coming out of Vault. Some of them great, some of them, I was kind of like, what the fuck are they doing? Then we have a lot of interesting stuff coming out of Overprime. They were talking about giving us feedback on surveys they did for their beta. And then we got nothing for Predecessor and nothing for Ethereal, but I will still have timestamps in the video description below for your viewing pleasure. But I am your host, the Mangoose. Joining me, as always, is my friend and co-host, Jelly Knees. How you doing, Jelly?
I am fantastic, Mangoose. Happy to be here. Excited to talk about all the things, honestly. Both, positive and negative. I'm excited to talk about both, honestly. So, but yeah, it should be exciting. But with us, as also always now, is the Viking Jedi. Welcome, Viking. How you doing, man?
Just keeping things lit over here, fam. 100.
Okay, we're all doing weird shit tonight. I like it. So let's get started with Vault because they had by far the biggest updates. Let's start with what we kind of already knew because of that BuzzFeed leak. They are going free to play. That will be yesterday if you're watching this. It'll actually be tomorrow for us, but that they are going free to play finally, and they are changing the name of the game to Vault Elder Orb. So it's no longer just Vault, it is now Vault Elder Orb. And along with that, they're going to do a lot more marketing for the game. We kind of already covered what free to play means for them and everything last week, and the Vault Elder Orb. So let's get into some of the other updates they had during that developer stream, which was something that a lot of people are kind of iffy about: integration with a company called Pocket Full of Quarters. If you don't know what Pocket Full of Quarters is, it's kind of like a centralized in-game currency thing. So instead of buying premium currency for several different games, you would buy their currency, and then you could use it in whatever games are partnered with them. So you could spend, instead of spending $20 on Vault and buying a $10 skin and then having $10 left over, you could spend $20 of the quarters, buy a $10 Vault skin, and then go buy, like, I don't know, a $10 Fall Guys skin or some shit like that. But a lot of people are very concerned about it because it's very metaverse, very cryptocurrency sort of thing. There was a lot of questions about how the quarters get redeemed by the developer. We did talk on the Vault Partner panel with a representative from Pocket Full of Quarters. Turns out they can exchange the quarters for US dollars, which is a lot better than what we thought. We thought that it was strictly Ethereum, which is a blockchain authenticated currency, cryptocurrency. But oh man, I still really don't know what to think about this. But Jelly, what do you think about Pocket Full of Quarters?
I mean, now that we know it's optional, right? There was a concern for me that this was going to be like their form of currency in game. Right, and I'm glad that it's not. I'm glad that it is optional, which alleviates a lot of my fears. When it's optional, do what you're going to do, right? I think them pushing it the way they did is what made people a little weird about it. I think if it was just like, guys, we are now very, and they'd be very casual about it, right? This is where we have a partner with Pocket Full of Quarters. Go check it out. No big deal. Moving on, right? Then just move on from it, because it made a lot of people feel weird in their Discord and in the comments, and all of those things. So, but I am a little more indifferent now. To me, it's kind of like the like, I gave you guys an example of this. I can't remember what it's called now. Draft Kings.
Yeah.
And it was a lot like DraftKings when I looked into it more and more. But I was just like, okay, bet on tournaments if you win. But there's a little more skill involved because it's your direct performance in these tournaments, right? So, okay. It's a little iffy, but is what it is. What about you, Viking?
Yeah, I mean, I think I followed suit with a lot of the community. It was like very confused as to what this platform could be. Again, since it's not really mandatory, I don't really care. Like, if they were going to force it upon us, then obviously I'd have a lot more skin in the game. But since it's really just, something, I think really, to me, I don't know if a lot of people are going to go and sign up for it because Vault is going into it, or utilize the quarter system. But anybody who's already on that platform maybe will be, happy that they can integrate with fault if they end up coming across it. So, that's fine. More players may be coming from other games, seeing another game coming onto the platform that they're already part of. But as for the actual usage of quarters, I mean, it didn't appeal to me at all. And I mean, I know we all did our research and tried to learn as much of it as we could. Of course, we're going to encourage you guys who are listening to still do your own research. Don't, just go based off of what we're saying. Please look into it yourself before you sign up. Cause there's some stuff on there that I think people would want to read up on, but, whatever.
Yeah, I had a lot of red flags. I had a lot of red flags popping up when they were talking about it. But after talking to the representative, a lot of my fears were allayed. But still, it's not something I'm interested in using. So
right, same. I don't care.
They quelled a lot of our fears, but didn't sell us on using it.
Yeah, right. They kept comparing it to Chuck E. Cheese. My thoughts on that was always, even when I went to Chuck E. Cheese, why do I have to buy these tokens? Why can't I just use fucking quarters? Since it's, you know what I mean? Why do I have to buy these quarters from them when I could just buy the premium currency for the game I want to play by? I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to stay too long on any one subject tonight because we've got a lot to go over. Okay, so what else did they have? Oh shit! I'm looking at Overprime. I'm like, what? Oh, they leaked Iggy and Scorch. So. That one was not on purpose. They weren't telling us who the next hero was going to be. They just told us that after free-to-play was dropped, after a while, they would be releasing a new hero. And then somebody asked about Mastery Races, and Balix was like, well, I mean, Mastery Races will come back when with Iggy. And everyone's like, oh! So Iggy and Scorch will be the next hero in Fault. I think this is going to be a great addition for them. I'm not a big Iggy fan, but I know he's one of those heroes. He's one of those heroes that's a big draw for people. So, Viking Jedi, I know you are a fan of Iggy. What do you think about him getting added into Default?
Yeah, no, I mean, the leak was really funny. I mean, we did our live reaction to it, right? And we were like, wait, did he just say what we think he said? And of course, the chat was blowing up. There were some clips that popped in. So it was obviously, a foot and mouth moment. But I mean, I think we all kind of expected that it was Iggy anyway. Like, it's just the fact that they were even like trying to like keep it behind, the silhouette or whatever. It was a little silly anyway. So I'm fine, whatever. But as far as like Iggy coming into the game in general, I'm excited. I've always kind of thought that Iggy was like, the fun champion that you don't really take serious. Like, I'm sure that people would flame you if you took it into ranked. But if you're a really good Iggy player, you could shut those guys up. To me, I kind of look at it like almost like taking like a Torbjorn in Overwatch. It's like, is he going to hard carry takeover games? No. But is he really funny and can add something that people aren't expecting? Sure. And so from that perspective, I can't wait to go full chicken,
You look like Torbjorn.
He is one of my favorite Overwatch characters for the exact same reason that I like Iggy. It's kind of a meme pick, but it can be good in right situations. And if people know how to play around him, right? I mean, obviously this is assuming that they keep his kit the exact same as it was in Paragon. So we'll see what that looks like. I would imagine it's going to be close to, if not exactly the same. But it'll be interesting if they pick the very early Iggy or the second half of Paragon's Iggy. So we'll see. Either way, I'd be happy. I didn't think it was that big of a deal when they swapped some stuff around, but I wasn't playing nearly as competitive as some others. So that'll be fun. I'm excited to see him.
Jelly, what do you think? I know you've known about Iggy for
ever and a day.
Years now.
I mean, I'm excited. All right, like Viking said, Iggy's just one of those fun characters, right? When you want to go in game and you want to have a good time, like just with your character, it's a lot like Kled in League of Legends. It's a lot like Torbjorn in Overwatch, right? There's just certain characters that no matter what, you pick them up and you're like, dude, I'm having a good time. Like I'm going in there ready to have fun. And to me, that's Iggy and Scorch in a nutshell. I remember when they came out in Paragon and I was just in there like, dude, I'm so in. Like, where do I sign? I was in Vegas and I loaded Paragon on my laptop just to play Iggy and Scorch. Loved every moment of them, so I'm excited to have him back for sure.
Now, in the movie, they were showing the old Ultimate on Iggy.
Right.
So hopefully that carries forward. I prefer the old Ultimate of Iggy.
Yep.
You know what? The movie came out between the last time we recorded. We should probably talk about this fucking movie.
Do we have to?
Yes. So One Up came out, the movie that features a bunch of Fault gameplay. One thing that's okay, the movie is cringe as fuck, and that surprised absolutely no one who had watched the trailer. But I was surprised at how much of Fault gameplay was actually in the movie. I would say about, I don't know, 20%, 15% maybe of the movie was actually Fault gameplay or Fault cinematics. Like, there was a lot of fucking Fault on the screen, which is great for them. Even if people didn't like the movie, they might kind of be attracted to that style of game.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got two aspects of the movie's release in terms of Fault, of course, because it's me. The movie itself, like you said, cringe, just campy as all get out. Like, honestly, just okay, thank you. Like, we did that. I've watched it once. I will literally never return to this movie ever again. But the Fault gameplay was nice, even if the gameplay itself did not necessarily equal Fault. Right. Running past turrets and just going straight for the core. That's one shot to kill. Like, I was surprised to see how much Fault was in there. And if the game was called Knights of the Elder Orb, honestly, there was a ton pushing people to that game, right? There was stuff in like the store that she worked in, the GameStop equivalent, right? There was a poster for Knights of the Elder Orb with all the characters. There was stuff all over the place, right? If the game was called that, brilliant, because then it's literally the name that's called out 500 times throughout the movie. That's fine. And even them calling it Elder Orb, they shorthand it to Elder Orb a couple times, which I think would help as well, since Fault has changed their name to Fault Elder Orb. Here's the issue that I run into, and it's partly because I work in marketing. If you type in Knights of the Elder Orb on Google, you get no Fault results. If you type in Elder Orb on Google, the first page has 2 Fault results. And that's not good. Like, those are the 2 names that if someone watches the movie and says, I want to play this game, and they go in and type on Google the name that they've been given, which is Elder Orb or Knights of the Elder Orb, to have 2 results over the course of 2 pages is not enough. And part of that is, so I was telling this to Viking the other night, it takes 7 to 14 days for search engines to kind of re-optimize with changes like that, right? So that they kind of will re-pull pages that already exist. They'll find new information. Unless it's blowing up super drastically, it does take time to kind of reorganize those results. They changed their name 2 days prior to the movie releasing, if that, which means that none of that information or a lot of that information is not in the system as Fault Elder Orb. It's still in there as just Fault. And so
down the line,
it will down the line, but realistically, Mangoose, who's going to watch this movie in 2 weeks, in 2 months, in a year, right? It was up.
I don't know. It's on Prime.
When I loaded Prime, it was up on the top banner on Prime, which is great. That's a good thing. Like, to get people, they'll see like, oh, something new's on the top banner. Let's just look at the trailer, whatever it is. That's great. But in 2 weeks, it's not going to be on the top of the banner. And I don't realistically see anybody going like through the Prime Video going like, you know what? Random gamer girl movie. That's the thing I'm going to watch tonight, right? Like, I don't know about that one. But so it would have been greater to me if they changed their name earlier to get those results polling better in search engines, so that when people, if they are Googling that name that's given in the movie all the time, you have better results showing up as such.
Viking, what do you think of the movie? Well, I mean, I know what you thought of it. We watched it together.
We did watch it together. You know, I'm going to try not to be mean about it, because there was a few actual like good moments in the movie as a movie, right? Where we actually got a good belly laugh out of it. But most of it was cringe to be nice. Okay. The acting was meh at best, and but it was cool seeing the game that we have been following for a long time and part of the community showcased in some way. I had a hard time. Mangus was doing a better job than I was. I had a really hard time removing the idea that this was supposed to be played like Fault is played. I just like couldn't get over them like jumping into, 2v1 situations and one-shotting people, or, like
Narbash off lane.
yeah, Narbash off lane.
That's
sure.
a real thing.
Okay. You just, even the announcer, always talking about mid lane. Like it was like mid lane and jungle. Like those are the
mid
only
lane
two.
that was the quarterback of the team.
I don't know,
the
man.
ADC is the quarterback of the team.
The whole like lining up competitive teams so they could talk shit to each other on the other side of the monitor.
Yeah, I know, right?
It was just like the thing that bothers me the most about this is it's like you're taking this and you're making it into a game oriented, tournament oriented, like pro scene oriented, and it feels like they did, like, other than having computers, it felt like they did no research whatsoever on how esports works. And it was just it was like, at least for me, it felt even that part was just like insulting to the whole community at large. Like, even if you're like a gamer girl and you're like wanting some representation, I totally get that. I'm all for supporting it. But if you were a gamer person and you saw this movie and you wanted to feel represented in it, you would feel just as pissed, I think, as we are, because it just doesn't do that. It feels almost insulting to that whole concept. And so it's like, do you know what? Then just make a different movie. But I know for the Fault guys and for the players who got to be featured in it, they're probably stoked, and I would be stoked if I was in it. And the cinematics looked really, really good. I really, really enjoyed those parts. That was a surprise that I wasn't expecting. I know both me and Megus, while we were watching it together, were like, oh, here we go. Okay, this is different. Like, that was pretty cool looking. But then we also were like, wait, how come Fault doesn't put out cinematics like this? So then we
and it's the company that Fault uses for their cinematics, for their trailers and stuff. It just shows that they don't put enough planning in, that they have this company has enough time, because we've seen from this movie that they can do the fucking cinematics. And I cut you off, Jelly. What were you about to say?
The Fault aspects were not the problem with the movie. If anything, the Fault aspects were probably the best parts of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so I kind of want to separate that. I don't want people to think Fault being related to this is that the whole, as a whole, they're both bad. The
100%.
movie's bad. The Fault aspects were fine.
Yes.
And Ruby Rose was horrid. Absolutely horrid in this movie. Lily was the best character, and maybe the Dean. Let's move on.
Please.
So today they were supposed to have, which was 2 days ago, if you're watching this now, on the premiere, they were supposed to have an anniversary stream. They didn't really release a whole lot during their normal stream. That got canceled, I guess. Somebody had some personal issues or something. Kind of sad. They ended up, I think, going with Easy Ed and Arma, and they just kind of went over the patch notes. And so that's going to bring us to the real meat and potatoes of tonight, kind of. The goddamn patch notes. So the main, there was some good stuff. There was some good stuff.
Yeah.
But that's sugar on shit, Mangoose. Like,
it is. That's polish on a turd.
I was just gonna say, Mangus is always doing, like, he's trying his best to find the small nuggets of positivity to inject into me and Jelly are just like, come on, let's just talk about what we're really wanting to talk about here. But
for all the times you've called me out for doing that, Mangoose, here we are.
I know, right?
But he's not wrong. There is some good stuff, so let's talk about it.
Okay, just real quick. Visual effects, added some actual visual effects to some of their tier 4 skins, like the Snow Morgesh has like snow comes out and stuff, and like Summer Fun Twin Blast actually has squirt guns now, and a lot of cool stuff like that. They release skins, but again, that's not even really a good thing, because it's just a bunch of recolors of skins they already have, which is kind of like, why the fuck is this? I don't know. I mean, it's a patch, so yeah, put it in the patch notes. I don't even know what else. Let's fucking talk about these loot boxes. They're going to put goddamn loot boxes into the game. I've said this over and over and over again, that Strange Matter is Fault's biggest enemy. And this decision from them is fucking terrible. I don't care if the loot boxes, if you don't have to have loot boxes, I don't care if stuff is gated behind loot boxes. I don't care how the loot boxes are implemented. Putting loot boxes into your game in this day and age is a fucking death sentence for your game. People are going to see that loot box and they're going to move along. I don't fucking get it. Jelly, what did you think of this?
Oh, I'm pissed, honestly. And for bunch of reasons. Loot boxes as a premise, I think, just have no place anymore. Honestly, I'm amazed as many games get away with loot boxes as they still do, because it's terrible. And I had this conversation with my girlfriend earlier because I was just ranting about it. I was like, this is the fucking dumbest decision on the planet for them.
Oh, girlfriend, weird flex. Okay.
Shut up. But it's and this goes back to the conversation I've been having about skins, right? Skins are monetization for these games. That's the way it goes. They are so behind on having skins that their form of monetization instead is to gate things behind loot boxes. That instead of creating new skins, new original skins that make people actually want to put money into your game, you're making loot boxes instead. And that drives me absolutely nuts, because that's just such a cop-out for them. It's ridiculous.
And from what I understand, from what you were telling me, Jelly, because I haven't logged into Vault yet, but the Epic created skins that were never released, they're charging premium currency for those now, right?
It's not premium. It's premium currency or these shards that you get from the loot boxes.
Okay, so it's.
But you cannot spend. You cannot spend matter on the Epic created skins anymore.
That sucks.
And that's dumb. Like, that pisses me off even further, right? Because for all the credit and like pat on the back we gave them when they decided to make Epic asset skins earnable just for free by playing the game. Mm-hmm. All of that's out the window. I don't care if you can earn these shards for free with these loot boxes, right? If when I level up, I get a box and I open it and I get one of these shards, fine. Why can't I spend my matter on these things? Like that, why did you take that away from us? Why did you remove an aspect of this game for players that have been playing it for so long, right? And I'd be pissed if I was a player who was like on the cusp of getting like one of those 13,000 matter skins, right? They're sitting at 12 and change, and then this change comes out, and then, by the way, that 12 and change means jack shit. Now, congratulations, go get loot boxes, right? That's dumb. It frustrates the crap out of me, and it's a bad decision on their part.
Jedi, what are your thoughts?
I mean, a lot of them are echoing exactly what you guys are talking about. I hate loot boxes. I hate anytime you have to, pull on a lever and hope that you get something good. I hate it in League of Legends, and that's probably one of the most popular games that has it. I despise it still as a concept in League of Legends. It just blows my mind and this is the scary thing, because League is established. It's a huge game at this point in the MOBA space. They can kind of get away with doing almost whatever they want, right? But in certain countries, especially in Europe, and there's legislation here in the United States about loot boxes that are going to be coming through, thanks in large part to, Blizzard and their most recent monetization. But like, there's a lot of pushback from a lot of places in the world. And in certain parts of, like I said, of the EU, they won't even allow you to have those in your game in order to be playable in those areas. Yeah. So if you are Fault, now maybe that's not like a concern for you because you don't maybe even have a player base there to begin with, but it's still a concern, and I think it's going to become where it becomes more normalized that governments are going to step in and put the kibosh on this type of monetization. So I don't understand the mindset that you have this is because we've talked about this, and I would be blown away if they also internally are not looking at this as their last real chance to grab onto the market share of this space, because if they aren't doing well in the next month or two, I think that they're done. They're good, and this idea of monetization, I feel like, hinders their ability to even capitalize on the momentum that they might be able to get through going free to play and having Epic Games and all of that other stuff that we've talked about, which is what we've been telling them they need to do. I don't even think console will save them with these loot boxes in there, because it's going to be a big fuck you to a lot of people. And we've talked about that. How many fuck yous is Strange Matter Studios going to do to their current player base and anyone who might be even interested? If you download a free to play game and you're like, oh, there's loot boxes in here, well, I'm not giving them any of my money. I mean, we did it with what is the most recent game that we've been playing? The one where you get the little freaking
Splitgate?
Splitgate, none of us were like, oh, let's spend money in the game. I mean, I know I joked around by getting their battle pass or whatever, but for the most part, I was like, yeah, I don't like that it's behind a freaking orb in order for me to be able to get skins or whatever. Like, I don't know. It's gross. I hate it. I think a lot of people are going to hate it. I'm very interested to see what the comments are right now as it's going through live chat and what people are going to say in the comments of this video. Yeah, over the next month, man, it will be really, really interesting, especially with no new major skins coming out for it. So again, I agree with James that it's like they're literally just putting another layer between the lack of content that they have, and I'm really frustrated. I can't even get my words straight. It pisses me off so much.
The thing too is like we saw that in the Overprime beta test that they had loot boxes. For some reason, it feels different to me between Fault and Overprime having loot boxes. I kind of expect it from like a Korean company. I did not expect this from Strange Matter. So
I think part of why it feels different as well is that Fault didn't have loot boxes and they're adding loot boxes.
Right.
Overprime's first initial closed beta test had loot boxes. Right there, you're setting the expectancy of your players from the minute one, and I think the loot boxes in Overprime are still predatory and still bad.
Yes,
full stop.
100%.
But they from minute one said we're going to have loot boxes, and then it's on me as a player to accept that. Right? I've now supported a game for 2 years. And now they're adding loot boxes, and that is way worse than just inherently having loot boxes from minute one. And I get that they're trying to bring in a bunch of new players with free to play and all of that.
Yeah,
but still, and I've been going through the last minute or so in their shop, trying to get a feel for opening these loot boxes and the fragments and all these things. For one thing, their shop is not working correctly. It doesn't tell you how many fragments you need for these skins. They all say 0. Which is in typical Fault fashion of something not working on a release. The opening the orbs, I have no idea how to get these fragments. I opened an orb and I got 3 skin fragments. 1 for Decker, 1 for Feng Mao, 1 for Gideon. But the only thing I can seemingly do with them is plug them in to roll another loot box to make sure my loot box gets a little bit better rewards. I can't find a way to redeem them for skin fragments for one of these skins in the shop. It's not.
I think you have to have 3. You have to have like 3 of the one. It's like in League, you know how like when you get it, you get like a skin shard or whatever, and you either unlock it with like the orange essence or whatever, or you get a certain amount of them, and then you can whatever, like upgrade it or something like that. Like it to me, again, it's just exactly what you were talking about before. It's another barrier. It's a confusing barrier. As soon as you start adding in more currencies and adding in, like, you know, you need this token to unlock this token, which then unlocks this thing, and then by chance you can unlock with this thing another thing. You're just like, you know what? I'm just not going to do it. Or whatever ones you do are going to be the free ones. Because that's what I do with League. I either buy the skin that I want outright with League. Now, granted, the quality of the skins with League tend to be way better. I also enjoy the game a lot more. And to, you know, bring back what Mangu said about Overprime, it's the same kind of concept. The skins that Overprime is putting out are way higher quality and they look really, really good. So I'm either, again, same concept, either waiting and I'll get lucky with the free rolls that I get because I'm not spending anything on a loot box, or I'll just buy the skin I want outright with in-game money. So, like, again, I don't know. The whole thing just puts a sour taste, and I hate it. I
mean, the other thing,
more thinking about it.
The other thing with Overprime, their loot box at least gives you the skin straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So loot boxes here, you don't get the skin straight up.
And if you're already on the skin, it gives you a refund. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. At least they give you the skin straight up. Right, and then maybe that'll change in the future, but from what we've seen in these tests, you roll the loot box, it opens up, and it gives you a skin full unlock.
And then they got keys to open the boxes too.
And then
just like,
so it's not even just loot boxes, like the free loot boxes that they're giving you as part of your account progression. There's the premium loot box that has the loot box and the key that you have to buy. You can buy separately or you can buy them together, depending. Which means you're gonna get. And the reason they sell them separately means you're going to get one and not the other. You're going to earn one over time and not the other.
I don't know how many times I had so many fucking boxes and no keys.
Exactly.
And I've got to look back too. I want to look back and see, because I could have sworn that they stated that they weren't going to have loot boxes. I could have sworn that they said that. I'm going to have to look through like a bunch of old videos and find out exactly if they said that or not. I don't know. But what this really signals to me is that they have decided, we always talk about, fishing from that Paragon pond versus the ocean of players out there. They've said, fuck that pond. We're not catching any of those fish anymore. We've already caught all the fish we're going to catch out of that pond. Now we're going to reach out, because there's no way anybody, any para-refugee is going to play Fault once they see those old boxes with keys, the shit that killed Paragon in that game.
The literal only thing they're missing is gating skins behind the loot box. And I mean, like, the only way to get the skin is behind the loot box.
Right.
And like the skins that they released with this patch, they released 5 new skins. One of them is the Epic exclusive, so it's not really technically a release in my mind. It's also just a recolor of the Astro Gideon skin. There's a Dark Side Gideon, which is also just a recolor of the Astro Gideon skin. But at least that skin is theirs. At least they created that skin. That is a new skin for them. The High-Tech Boris, Polar Bear Boris, and Toxic Countess are all just recolors of existing skins that Epic made. And again, this goes to where are the skins? What are we doing with this that we can't create better skins? We clearly can create skins. We've got the like Aztec Decker and the Astro Gideon skin that are both really good. Where are the skins? Why, if you guys have been planning this for as long as they theoretically have been, why are there not more original skins in this release?
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I don't know if you guys are feeling this, but like we've been covering a lot of Fault, right? They've been the big thing coming out with, all these announcements. And the thing that's pissing me off most is that I'm not coming out of any of the announcements feeling good. Like, I feel like it's just like, for a half of a good announcement of going free to play, there's so much more after that that is just left in question marks. And then they talk about, okay, well, the major, patch that we're going to be releasing before free to play is going to have a lot of monetization stuff. And then we speculated a lot about what their monetization could be. We never thought that it would be this. And it's like, and I'm just like,
we even talked about the bad things, like the ways that their monetization could go south.
Yeah.
Right. And even then, we didn't even talk about them adding loot boxes. Right.
No.
Because to us, that was there was no way they were adding loot boxes into the game. Right. That's the bare minimum. Right. Like, don't add loot boxes. Everything from there is fair game. Right. And they even went below that threshold. It's ridiculous. It frankly is. And you guys talked about that there's good things in this patch. The update to the visual effects of the tier 4s are a good thing.
Sure.
Right. Teeny tiny, though, in terms of adding something, right? I mean, we've been talking for months, Mangoose, about them doing exactly that, right? Even on Twin Blast, making his blast blue would have been at least a step in that right direction. There is nothing substantial in this patch that is a positive on the same level as the negative of the monetization changes.
Correct.
There's not a new character. There's not good balance changes. There's no balance changes, for one thing. There's no talk of what free to play means. There's no talk of any of these other things that they at least could have used to balance out this announcement. And not having a stream, and I'm not by any means blaming them for having a family emergency and taking the stream off.
Oh, of course.
But it did not help them. Right? Not being able to at least face your community straight up and have a conversation about this hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It makes me, because for 2 years, we've had a lot of questions about what they're going to do, and how to maintain and how to, grab more of the market, because I feel like whoever's making these business decisions, I feel like they're just so out of touch. I don't understand it. Like, they don't understand their player base. They don't understand the future of their game. They don't understand. It feels like they're looking at things that were successful for games that are well beyond them. Like, you can point at like League of Legends and be like, well, they have loot boxes with keys and they're doing really well. CSGO had loot boxes with keys. They're doing really well, but yeah, you are not CSGO. You are not League of Legends. Like, you don't get to say that monetization platform works for them, it will work for us. No, You're starting at the bottom, bro. You're not up here. You got to work your way up. You got to have more than 1,000 people playing your game at once. Like, you don't have that. And this will set some people back. They will be like, I'm logging in. Oh, this game looked kind of cool. Oh, it's got loot boxes. Now I'm out. There will be people, a large percentage, I don't know, but enough that you need them. You don't want them leaving. Like, you need every single person who even looks at your game or downloads your game to keep it downloaded and playing it. Because if you don't have that, then you're fucked. And I think they are. I think they're going to be fucked in a month or two. I think they're not going to. If they hang on, it's just going to be until Overprime or Predecessor comes out and they're done. It just won't. Not that those guys are necessarily longevity going to win either, but those two alone will knock Fault out, I think, completely. Unless, again, and we keep saying this about them, unless come up with something to grab onto the community, make them excited about their game again. Because to me, this last week of Fault news that we've been covering makes me 1% excited. And that's just because there might be a player base for me to be able to log in and play against.
I feel betrayed and embarrassed by the loot boxes. Here's what fucking Fault has been for me for the last couple of years. It's like that friend that you know he's a good dude. Most of the time he's a good dude, but whenever you bring him to somebody's house, he hits on their wife and pisses in their fridge. That's what fucking Fault is. You're like, why did you fucking do that, man? I'm trying to get everybody to like you, but when I show you to everybody, you fucking fuck it up for yourself. You know, that's what Fault is. They're that fucking goddamn swamp donkey of a friend. Jesus H. Christ.
Yeah. Well, so Viking brings up CSGO and League of Legends. The thing that both of those games have, even with their key loot box systems, is hundreds of original skins.
Yeah.
And Fault doesn't have that. Fault doesn't have, even if I was excited to be like, oh, now I can earn more skins for free. What more skins do I get to earn? The ones they just took away from me that I could have earned for free anyway, and their 4 proprietary skins that they've come up with, and their proprietary recolors. Ooh, no, that's bullshit.
Not to mention, we don't even know that they're going to come out looking good. I mean, it's been 2 years, and I'm bringing this up again. The witch's hat doesn't fit on her fucking head. It's been 2 years since that skin came out. 2 years. I can't. Bro, okay, we got to get off these guys.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something else, please.
Well, they did release a video of old pre-alpha clips. If you guys want, it does show how far they've come with their graphics and stuff. And I do want to reiterate too that Predecessor and Overprime, we haven't been able to see them grow and develop with Fault. You know, they may not have always been great, but we saw everything happen for them, and we've seen them grow over the years. But goddamn, they just keep shooting themselves in the foot. Let's move on to Overprime. So Overprime, they released this crazy video. It was survey results, and it showed what people specifically complained about from the beta, and it gave answers, if they could answer, of what they were going to do to fix it. I went through and kind of cherry-picked a lot of this stuff so we could talk about it, but hero respawn timer adjustments. People were complaining that it was too long late game, and that was making games last too long. And they said that they are positively discussing it and that they will change the hero respawn timers, especially towards the late game. I didn't. Well, hard games didn't go past 8 minutes, so I didn't really notice this too much. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think, the community, we've all talked about it too, is that the games either went 10 to 12 minutes or they went an hour. Yeah. And there was a lot of things that went towards that, but absolutely, I think the hero respawn timers had a lot to do with that too. It's just good that they're acknowledging it and that they've got, it on the board of something that they're going to look towards as far as making adjustments, how dramatic they will be. I think will have a lot to do with the other changes, as far as figuring out how they want the pacing of their game to be. Because I know we all talked about this, but it's you don't want there to be that wild. It's either 10 minutes or an hour. You don't want that. You want to try and find a happy medium for your game. So another cool thing that they're looking into. What about you, Jilly?
I'm glad they're talking about all of these things. I think hero respawn timers is being mislabeled as the problem. Because in essence, longer respawn timers should mean games end easier.
Yeah.
because those two things are actually act against each other. They don't favor one feeding into the other. To me, that shows that the minions are the bigger problem again. And we talked about minions before, right? But
Yeah.
longer death timers should mean the game ends. And we had this in the first closed beta test, their death timers capped out at, I think it was 60 seconds. And that was too short. That by the time you got to 25, 30 minutes, 60-second death timers is not long enough to do anything with. But then they uncapped it, which then meant those longer games went longer or had longer death timers, which feels terrible when you die, but it does not mean that that's what's causing the game to go longer.
Right.
And so I think it's being mislabeled. I hope they don't change it too much. But I'm just happy that they're acknowledging that this is community feedback.
Here's a big one. Instead of starting with all of your skills unlocked, you're only going to start with one skill unlocked, like a traditional MOBA now. Jelly, what do you think of this?
I on both sides of this, right? I think one of the things that set Overprime apart was the fact that you got all basic abilities at level 1, but it throws their balance for an absolute loop because it's so much harder to balance characters that get their power spike in minute 1 that people that when they hit level 3 originally became online versus the people that still need level 6 regardless to get their ultimate up are still behind. And so it's a really hard thing. And for junglers especially, it changes the clear time in jungle drastically to have all 3 abilities at minute 1 versus having to earn them at each camp. So I think it is a theoretically good change. I just hope their balance adjusts accordingly with it. But yeah, overall, I'm 50-50 on it. What about you, Viking?
Yeah, I mean, same 50-50. I think the biggest impact will be for jungle. I think that was pretty obvious. So if they're trying to slow down the early game a little bit, again, I'm going to say almost the same thing with the first one. It's like it's again a thing that I'm happy that they're addressing because the overall feel of the game needs to be more cohesive. And if this is the start of one of those things, like, okay, so how do we control early game a little bit better? We need to also, with that, control jungle pathing, because it seemed like they were very much aware that jungle was the real big decider. If you had a really aggressive, good jungler, games felt very oppressive right from the beginning. So if you can slow down those junglers while still giving them opportunities to path better, and so I think that will kind of tying in with the, starting with only one skill versus all 3. But they did also say in this that it was like not decidedly one way or the other way. They were still exploring both. But that right now the main idea is that they feel like starting with one will help kind of address some of those early game issues where junglers were coming into, lanes at, minute 3 instead of maybe minute 6 or whatever.
I think this is going to mainly affect junglers and supports.
Absolutely.
Everybody else will just be fairly whatever.
Yeah, and I think I am going to skip to another bullet point on this because it kind of ties in. Is they're adding new jungle paths and monsters.
Yeah,
and I think that's going to be interesting as well because so one of the things starting at level 3 meant basically as long as I get the buff, I can go wherever I want afterwards because I don't need the levels before I gank. Right, especially on someone like Kalari or Kayla, right? That was a huge benefit of I can just get the buff, run straight into a lane, turn invisible, dagger, dash, the whole 9, no big deal. If they're adding more camps, they're going to spread out the XP on the camps as well. So not only are you going to be slightly slower because you only have one ability at level 1, you also have it sounds like at least one additional camp that you're going to have to clear, which will split the XP to that additional camp, which means that you'll need to take at least one extra camp to get to the same point as before.
Now, were they talking about adding more jungle camps or just changing the camps?
So they already have unique monsters in every camp. So when they say they're adding monsters, to me, that's adding another camp.
I'm talking about instead of the jungle minions. Instead of the white cap camp minions.
They didn't. I don't think they have white cap camp minions, do they?
Yeah.
I don't.
They had 2 and 2, right?
On the wall.
Because you had red buff and then 2 sets of jungle minions. You had blue buff, 2 sets of jungle minions. So I think they're just going to change those jungle minions into different monsters, is what they were saying. Not necessarily add more camps.
I swear they were already unique monsters, but maybe not. If they weren't, then yeah, I think they'll update those and move on. I can't, with all of these games using variations of their unique monsters and the white cap, I have no idea anymore. I'll have to look up footage and see.
I had a whole different thing. I didn't think that they were going to split XP. I thought maybe they were going to add in another camp of monsters, whatever it is, whether it's white cap or something, some variation of it, to help expedite the early game a little bit more for junglers. Like, so not splitting XP, but giving them access to more gold and more XP to be able to have an impact, but maybe not quite the same impact that they had before. So like if you picked an early game, jungler, you might, after doing a full clear on one side, be high enough level if you were healthy enough to be able to make a gank at level 2 or something like that, rather than being full level 3, able to gank anywhere and do all of that stuff. So that was my take on it, but I guess at this point it's all open to interpretation. We'll just have to see what they do with it.
We need to see who wins. We're going to have to come back to this to see who wins. Who was right.
I think overall, my favorite thing about listening to a lot of this is that they understand how important jungle is in a competitive, game like moments. It really is. It really, showcases that they are very much like in tune with the way that the game gets controlled, and it's a lot of the times through that neutral area known as the jungle. And so the fact that they're looking at that as like the major point across multiple points, you'll see it is pretty cool. I think it's great.
Yeah. All right. So I looked up footage quickly. Technically, Mangoose and I are both right. They are and are not the white cap minions. They use those as a base, but then they modified them with like spikes and horns and all these things, so they look different. But so again, we're still in the same boat of like whether they updated it or not.
What does monsters to be added mean? Question mark.
Exactly.
We'll find out later. But
we'll blame it on translation.
I'm excited to see what new jungle paths looks like and means, because I know that they've been talking about simplifying the map as a whole. So maybe that includes their pathing as far as jungle is concerned. I know that we talked about this in previous videos that, like, especially around the prime pit, that sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. Oh man, I took the long way and now I'm being ganked by this. And it's like, so we'll see what all that ends up being, but pretty cool overall.
Kind of rolling a lot of the feedback into one. There was a lot of feedback about the Prime Guardian. They said that they're going to change how it spawns, the health and everything. We all knew this was coming because that shit was busted. I don't think we really need to even talk about that.
I did see one they talked about. It seemed like the stats not ramping up correctly, or the way that it was phrased seemed like the stats. They talked about the stats will change now over time.
Yeah,
and which is one of the fixes that we talked about, is that there was no scaling on the Prime Guardian.
We were getting an in-game Prime at 8 minutes. Yeah,
exactly. And so if they do fix scaling, that honestly could be enough by itself.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I said. That's all they need to do. I think a lot of people misinterpreted when I said that. When I was talking about changing Prime, they thought that I meant remove the Prime Dunk. No, don't remove Prime Dunk. Just make him scale. Make him scale. That's all you need to do. Let's see.
Fight for Prime Dunk.
So a lot of people were complaining about picking positions and having a draft. They said that they will do that with rank mode, but quick match will stay the same. You just pick whatever you want and fucking go wherever. So,
yep,
that's
pretty
fine.
Cool.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah. Standard, I think, at this point.
I'm going to skip over that one. Separation of solo queue and party queue in the works. I think this is definitely needed.
Yeah.
I mean, they were talking themselves how the developers, who were actually really, really good gamers, were getting their asses kicked by the teams. And they were saying that
by 5 stacks like us, like we just went in there and dominated games left and right.
I mean, even when we 3 to 4 stacked, we still fucking dominated. But especially when we had OSK in the off lane, I would take mid lane. We had Viking on carry and
Convey support.
Convey there on support. Yeah, we were just tearing shit up. Jelly in the jungle. I don't know if I said that.
You didn't, but it's a given. So.
I think my only concern with that is obviously just splitting player base. Like, it'll have to really be dependent on them having enough players that even makes sense. But if they can make it work even with a lower player base, I think it's fair. Like, that would be ideal regardless of player base. But I worry that I
imagine they'll do it like League does, where it prioritizes groups together.
Right.
That's what they mean by solo queue and a party queue, right? Is prioritizing groups together, but as time expands, those prioritizations get looser and looser.
Yeah, I
So
mean, it'll be most apparent in ranked. Like, that's the only place I'm really concerned about it. Quick play, I don't care if I get matched up against a 5-stack as a solo player or, or duo or something like that. But, like, I mean, it can feel bad. I'm not taking that away, but there's not as much on the line other than just playing the game. If I get stomped by a 5-stack in 10 minutes, then whatever, I'll just queue back up. But in ranked, that'll be a big deal if you get put up against a 5-stack as like a solo or as a duo.
Yeah. And as much as I love 5-stacking, right?
Sure.
If they're only going to have one ranked queue, I hope that they limit the party limits, either to 2 or 3. Right? I would rather not have 5 stacks at all than be able to be a solo going in against a 5-stack, because that'll feel awful.
Agreed.
AI matches they're going to include those after early access. I think this will be a great addition to their game.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a big one. They will not remove sprint mode. They received a lot of feedback, negative feedback, both negative and positive feedback about sprint mode. They've decided internally that they are going to keep it in, and they're going to keep it like it is. A lot of people were saying that it should be instant, but no, it's still going to take a little bit to spin up, and then you enter sprint mode. I like this. I think it's kind of one of the hallmarks of Overprime now, being the quick game that it is, and I like having that option available, even if the map is tuned so that it doesn't matter or something. Like, I still like any game where I can make myself go a little bit faster. It makes me feel better as the player. It makes me feel like I'm hurrying towards whatever I need to hurry towards.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I think it especially fits Overprime. I mean, it's meant to be a faster paced game. I think it helps with jungle, being able to feel like you can move from camp to camp a little bit faster. I do like that it's a ramp up and there's a punishment. So if you try to do it, like, either whether on purpose or accidentally in a team fight or something like that, and you get hit, it roots you for a second. So I think that they have it done well, in my opinion. I never felt like it was, I'm being pooped on because somebody behind me has sprint mode versus just it being what it is. I know that when we were playing Fault, I kept hitting, thinking I could ramp it up just because we played so much Overprime and it felt the same. So I was like, wait, why am I not going into sprint mode? So I think it's fine. I think it just makes you feel like, as the player, like you have a little bit more control over your own like pacing in the map and in the game. And so I think proper use of it is still good and fun. So I think, and this kind of goes along with it, they're keeping jump as well. So that's another one that I thought was really cool. So they're not getting rid of that.
And you'll be able to rebind all of your keys. This is a problem that I had, and this is definitely feedback that I gave them. I need to be able to rebind everything. So I think that's just giving the player agency is just always a good thing. There's nothing to be bad there, really. Back-end system to increase the time it takes to add Paragon heroes, or decrease the time, I should say, it takes to add Paragon heroes. So they're going to be adding Paragon heroes more faster now.
More faster?
More faster. That's the technical term?
Yep. And which is obviously a great thing, but they still have their own Overprime specific heroes coming. And then
and to remind everyone, I mean, they said it originally in the interview a couple months ago, a Paragon hero a month, and then an original every 3. And I think if they can do that faster, great. They even still stick to that. I think that's still good.
I think they should still stick to that, even if they can do it faster.
I was going to say, I think the pacing of that seems to me good. I mean, even like super good games like, Riot only do a new character every maybe 3 to 4 months. Yeah, like so once a quarter or something like that. I think you want to have that spacing in between, just so that way you understand the balance. I think if you're releasing too many characters too quickly, it can start to throw the ecosystem of your game, to where people are like, wait, so the new character's out. Is it the most OP? Do I have to be playing this or whatever? So I think that while it's great to say that, from a back end perspective that they can throw the champions in there, obviously I hope that they're paying attention to the releasing and whether or not it's healthy for the game, especially when you start thinking about ranked and competitive and all that stuff and how that can have an impact, because it does usually. So we'll see. They seem to be really open to feedback. So even if they are going that fast and people are like, hey, whoa, we can't get a feel for our meta when you're throwing champions as quickly at us, maybe they'll adjust, or they won't, and it'll just be crazy. And it is what it is, because that's Overprime.
And Jelly, you just added this one in, cast settings to come after early access, and that's definitely something that I've complained about.
Yep, 100%. Predecessor and Overprime both drive me nuts with that, because I'm just like, I just want to throw things faster. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to confirm my ability cast, please. Yeah, so I can't wait for that one. That one's a big one for me.
One of them that wasn't on here, but I'll go ahead and bring it up because it cracked me up so bad. Feedback, some people said not enough towers. Some people said there were too many towers in Overprime.
Yes.
He's out there like, oh man, this one tower, then inhibitor, then core, this is way too much. You need to get rid of one of the inhibitors or something. Like, who said that? Like, enough people had to say that for them to bring it up.
Yeah,
that's 100%. Insane.
It's
something
ridiculous.
So we talked about it before, and watching the video, I didn't see them talk about it, was the minions. And that surprised me. And I think it's one of those things that maybe we're just better gamers, so we know that minions are not working correctly, right? No. But it makes me curious if they're doing something on that, but there wasn't enough feedback to include it in the video. If they're just not doing something on it, where minions fall in all of this.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Maybe, yeah, because it seemed like they had like a lot that, you know, what I liked about this video, and if you guys haven't watched it, please go and watch it. It's like 7 minutes. It's not going to take up your whole day or anything like that. But it was cool that they showed like how much feedback they got from which regions, you know, like that was actually really interesting. And it surprised me sometimes, like where this feedback was coming from and at what volume. So like from that perspective, but yeah, it's again, that's like the one thing I feel like we've harped on about Overprime so much, or at least me and Shelly have, because I think it means so much to us, is that the minions don't seem to do what we want them to do. And I mentioned this before, I think when me and Mangoose did our own video of it, was that if that's just how their system is going to work, that minions into themselves are not going to be very important other than just a way to get money and get XP, and then they're going to have other aspects of the game be the strategic part, that's fine, I guess, as long as they get that other stuff right. You know, it would be cool from my perspective to be able to have the ability to make minions mean something, but again, if we do other stuff that ends games without, you know, setting up slow pushes and doing all that stuff with minions, it is what it is. I just want to know that this is how this game is. We're just not worried about minions the same way that almost every other MOBA is. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because if you look at like Heroes of the Storm, while minions are a thing, you definitely rarely were using minions to set up like a big push and that's how you won games. It was always some other objective that you had to do on the map to win the game. And
you never played Zagara, huh?
You know what I mean though, like it was like you shared XP, you shared gold. It was like, yes, it's not like it was unimportant, but it just wasn't the main focus of how you won the games was through necessarily minion plays. Whereas like with games like League, you can absolutely control and dominate a game by having really good wave control. And so it can be a good thing maybe if they don't do it. I don't know. It just really depends on how they fix all this other stuff. So but one final thing, because I think we're probably about ready to move off of Overprime. I just want to reiterate that, like, I just love their constant amount of feedback and information that they're giving to us. Like, I think I've said this about Overprime every single time. Not that I think Overprime is the best game ever and it's going to be the best game when it comes out. I think I just enjoy their feedback. I enjoy the fact that they're listening and that, you know, when they give us stuff, they give us something that's got some weight to it. It's got a little bit of meat on the bones. There's still plenty that they're keeping behind. Like, we still don't know entirely how their monetization is going to work. We don't know when they're going into early access, all that fun stuff. But the stuff that they release feels good going through it. Like, I've never, so far at least, I haven't felt like any stuff that's come out of Overprime, I'm like, you motherfuckers. Like, you know, I've always been like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Oh, okay, nice. Oh, that's kind of cool or whatever. And I don't know. I want to see some of this from the other guys. Like, you know what I mean? It's like almost a stark contrast between how we felt about Fall. Like, this one was just, hey, solid, good information. Can't wait to see how it's utilized. Yeah, so... And I want more from Pred as in general, because those guys like seem to like never put anything out. So
we've done it. We've officially shifted him off of the Ethereal never puts anything out to Pred never puts anything out.
That was your whole goal last week.
It was, but you know what though? Like, I mean, me and Jelly talk a lot off stream, and we, you know, I get why Ethereal can't release as much. They're not into the same position that a lot of these other companies are. They're not getting $20 million like Predecessor is or whatever. You know what I mean? At least not yet. Maybe that's something that's coming
if anyone
down
wants to give us $20 million, let me know.
But, so it's like, yeah, getting any kind of new information from Ethereal is always exciting and fun because I think that the game has like, it's just the way that they're approaching building that game is so different than it feels like these other games are. So it's like really cool when we get to hear something. Predecessor, Overprime, Fault, they're all like, again, the para-zombies. They're kind of falling in line with like, okay, so what is going to separate you and make you successful where Paragon failed? And so it's like we kind of have this expectation versus results thing that's kind of always playing as a yin and yang between us. Whereas with Ethereal, it's just like, what are they doing? What are those crazy kids over there doing with their weird 3 lanes and, myths that can fly and other censored champions that are yet to be announced and talked about? But, like it's...
Yeah, absolutely. I think, so I'll end on like one final note for all of them, but it mainly pertains to Fault and Overprime for this week. But I think it does apply to Ethereal and Predecessor as well. Get your communities hyped about the right things. And don't false hype your community around the wrong things. We talked, Viking and we were talking off stream, and we talked about the live stream from Vault earlier this week, and how there was a lot of information there, but it was all delivered in a way that it was just kind of one note, for lack of a better way to put it.
It was monotone.
Just here's the information, be very casual about it. There was no like getting your community jazzed about free to play. There was no like, even when there was a faff about Iggy and Scorch being released, right? Jazz it up. At that point, it's out. Just do it. Just commit to it, right? Get your community engaged and excited for this information about the right information, for one thing. Like the most, went back and rewatched the Fault stream. The most excited I felt the devs were talking about anything was about this monetization overhaul. And this is what we got. And that to me is, you focused on the wrong things. You drove your community to the wrong aspects of the information. Whereas with Overprime, they release a stat video about like this information, but they have put it in the right light to make you excited to watch it or read it if you want to be excited about it. And if you're not, then not. You're not disappointed. You're not like they've done a great job of placing these things where the excitement needs to be. And I applaud them for that. I mean, but like I said, it applies to all of them, right? Put the right amount of enthusiasm behind the right announcements. Don't try and make bad announcements more exciting with enthusiasm, because that's not the way to play this. It's just riskier than any of these companies really should be playing with on doing that kind of stuff.
Yep. But that, I think, is probably going to close it out for this week. But like I said, it was mainly Fault and Overprime centered, but that's not our fault. Don't blame me that there's no Pred updates. Blame Jelly that there's no Ethereal updates.
I'm blaming you, Mangoose. Blame Mangoose. There's no Ethereal news. That's it.
But yeah, if you want to check out Jelly Knees Twitch and YouTube, I'll have them linked in the description below. And if you want to check out Viking Jedi's Twitter, I'll have that linked in the description below. How do you use Twitter, Jedi? Like, you talk a lot. Like, how do you deal with the...
How do I utilize it? What do you mean?
Like, how do you deal with Twitter limiting how much you say?
Oh man,
it's something that I've been doing. Well, actually, I don't really tweet that much anymore, but I used to tweet a lot. It did drive me crazy that I would have to actually have a whole thing and edit it and oh man,
how he finds his balance, right?
It was tough.
The conversations, he talks too much, and Twitter he has to limit it to 240 characters, right? So there we've got the seesaw.
It's true. Maybe for some of these segments, you've got to put me on a word limit or something like that, so I don't over talk.
I'm gonna create a Twitter box for you in the Google sheet, the Google Doc. There you go. That's 240 characters. Sum it up.
Oh boy. Yeah, no, I do want to say something really quickly, because I think last time we left off with Predecessor on again a sour bad note or whatever. I want it to be said to the Pred fans, we are excited that they have $20 million. It is a overall good thing. Mm-hmm. Okay? We just didn't like the way they announced it in a way that made it seem like it was a cool community thing when it was a business thing, which is again a good thing. Hopefully.
Delivery matters.
Yeah, that was all it is. So I'm excited to see what Predecessor does with their $20 million. Hopefully it's not loot fucking boxes. That's what I hope.
No.
Well,
Okay.
thanks for coming out, everybody. If you're hanging out in the chat, I appreciate it. If you're watching this as a video, I also appreciate it. But that is going to be the For the Minions crew signing off. You guys have a good one. Mangoose. Special shout out to channel members I Bloodhunter, Jelly Knees, Meow Mix for Men, Stunt, Raven, and Blastoise King.